This is our second time coming together to honor Ray. The first time was 5 years ago. And we've come together because we've all worked with Ray. I worked with Ray with Benny and Greg Hutchinson in the band. And then, of course, Christian has done the bass duos and trios with John Clayton and Ray. And for us to come together and celebrate his music is it's just a joyful thing, you know. We all loved him so much and love him so much that any opportunity to celebrate him is a great reunion.
Ray Brown has been so central to my musical life, and he continues to be, even in his physical passing. Every day I think about Ray. His passion for the music, his dedication, and Ray was all about time. He was all about playing time, and he really did his very best during the 4.5 years I was in his trio to instill that in me. So every day, this is what I strive for. And the folks that I'm playing with here, Christian McBride and Gregory Hutchinson and Dee Dee Bridgewater, they're the best. I've known both Christian and Gregory since they were teenagers. Gregory and I actually shared the bandstand in Ray's trio. Christian used to be a member of my own trio over 20 years ago. Not that we're that old. And Dee Dee is such a joy, a very different animal from most vocalists. Very inclusive and very regenerative kind of spirit that we share on the bandstand. She gives us a lot, she's very receptive to us, and we're just having a ball. And New York is like the hippest audience in the world. It doesn't matter if you play cool or hot, few notes, a lot of notes, old, new, both. As long as you come from your heart and you have respect for the audience and respect for the fact that it's a presentation, it's a service for the audience, the New York audience gives you love. So we're just having too much fun here at the Blue Note.
Oh man, it's I'm now at the point where I just have to play the gig, because when it first started happening, when we first started doing these Ray Brown tribute concerts, I realized that I was now in the old man's chair. And if I consciously thought about that, I really would not be able to play. Really, really. But the thing is, I'm playing with Benny and Greg Hutchinson. Benny Green and Greg Hutchinson. These guys have been my friends and my brothers and some of my closest musical compadres for many, many years. So as long as I looked at it like that and not kind of me sitting in for Ray Brown, I was able to get through the gig. But it's pretty heavy playing these Ray Brown songs and these Ray Brown arrangements as the bassist.
That's his bass too, right?
Yes, that was one of his basses, yeah.
Well, to be part of the Ray Brown tribute band is an honor. It also it's like, these are all friends. Like, we're all friends. So Dee Dee's a friend, Christian's a friend, Benny's a friend. So we're paying tribute to someone that we all knew and love. But at the same time, it's like some friends coming together to play some good music. And I'm sure every time this comes up, I'm sure he's up there like just laughing and having a ball, because I'm sure he's looking at us going, now keep Dee Dee in control. Don't let her get crazy.
Ray used to, I mean, he's known for slapping bass. And when we were doing a number, I think it was "Oh Lady Be Good," he slapped that bass so heavy, and I was singing, and I bent forward. Well, Ray likes to have his trio really tight, so there was just enough space for me to stand in front of him, and he hit that bass, and I bent forward, and my derriere went into the curve of his bass, and he said, "Stay like that. Stay like that." So we made a whole little routine out of it. And then another time, I was singing a ballad, because he used to always like to talk to me, talk in my ear, you know, when I'd be singing. So I'm singing a ballad, and he goes, "Hey, little girl, if I put $500 on the floor, will you bend over and pick it up?" The whole point of just being to bend over. He was devilish. He was very mischievous. He was class personified, and when I think of Ray, I just think of the bass. You know, for me, the bass was just an extension of the man, and he was always the bassist that I dreamed to work with. When I first had met him in the early 70s, I saw him out in Monterey. I think it was like 73, before your birth, and he was coming down this gravelly path, and I was going the other way, and I was like, in my mind going, I'm walking towards Ray Brown, I'm walking towards Ray Brown. And so he's pushing his bass, and we get ready to pass each other, and I go, "Hello, Mr. Brown." And he says, "Come back here, girl." And I lost it. I was like, ah! I just became silly putty, you know, talking to him, and I just remember telling him, "Oh, one day, Mr. Brown, I would love to work with you. I just would love to." So working with him was a dream come true.
There's so many stories I could share about my magical time with Ray Brown. And our relationship didn't even end. I left his band after 4.5 years, which was a difficult decision for me to make. The only reason I did is because Ray worked constantly, and I just left so that I could have a little more time to do things on my own. And that's when I began to realize on a whole other level how much Ray cared about me, treated me as family, because when I left the band, our relationship continued. I played with him more, and we would talk, and he really encouraged me. He cared about the music so much, and he really made it clear to us, all of us who knew him, who were like children of his, that we have a responsibility to carry on this joyous, victorious music.
Well, the first time I met Ray Brown, Benny and I were together. We were playing a show here in the village at a club called the Knickerbocker, and Ray was here at the Blue Note. And so Ray came to hear Benny and I perform, and he liked what he heard, and you know, he was very complimentary and very supportive, gave us some, you know, nice words of support and wisdom, and he invited us to come to see him play here on a Sunday night. So Benny and I came. He had Gene Harris playing piano and Jeff Hamilton on drums, and he made this announcement over the microphone. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, last night I went and I heard these two magnificent young men at a club nearby, and these two guys were swinging like dogs." And I'll never forget that phrase as long as I live. He said they were swinging like dogs. And he introduced Benny and I from the stage, and we stood up, and man, it was just one of the greatest moments of my life. And as fate would have it, about 6 months later, Benny replaced Gene Harris in Ray's trio, and then a few months after that, Ray created Super Bass for myself and John Clayton. And of course, we did one of our 2 CDs here at the Blue Note.
I went out to rehearse with the band before I got in the band, and we rehearsed for a week or something like that. And each time he would always give me like these helpful insights. He said, "You know, Ray, Art Blakey had a hell of a hi-hat foot, you know, play the hi-hat really strong." Or he said, "Go ahead, Hutch, step on it." You know, he always had these little things. And I remember driving up to his, he had an apartment or a house on a golf course. in La Jolla. And I remember we drove when I was living in California up to the golf course, and the whole drive we listened to music, and he told old stories about all the greats, and like it was wonderful to sit alongside someone who you admire and listen to them talk about all these great musicians that he loved, and you know, all kinds of stories, some of which I cannot repeat. It's not a good idea.
And something else I can tell you about Ray, where I'm concerned, I had learned everything that I know about jazz working with the Thad Jones Mother Lewis Big Band.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always felt I had to have arrangements because I was coming out of that big band setting. So whether I was in a small group setting, no matter what the setting was, I always felt I needed to have arrangements so that things could be really tight. So I didn't have the cliche endings and that you have in jazz. And when I started working with Ray, he had all these great arrangements, you know, and this stuff was really tight. And I came with my arrangements, and he said, "No arrangements, Bridge." And I was like, "But," he says, "No, I want you to go back to that spontaneous place where you were when I first met you." So he would not let me do any of my arrangements. And then his trio, the trio would play, and they'd be tight. And then I'd come out, and it'd be just, you know, in my mind, loose, you know, old style jazz, and it used to tear me up, and he would not do that.
There's so many classic recordings of Ray Brown. There's no recording of Ray Brown where he's not swinging his behind off. So if you just like picked a Ray Brown album that he plays on as a sideman or as a leader, blindfolded, you pretty much can't miss. I know a couple favorites that he mentioned to me that he was on with the great Oscar Peterson. Was a 1956 recording live at the Stratford, Ontario Shakespearean Festival, and a record which Oscar Peterson himself would always have in his car. When I would get in his car, he'd always be playing this record, and it's a great album that was recorded around 1982 on the Pablo label called Ain't But a Few of Us Left, with Milt Jackson, Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown, and Grady Tate, just swinging like dogs.
Well, I think Ray Brown is one of those musicians that every recording he made, particularly later in his life, they were just as vital as the ones he did early in his career. Because Ray Brown, like Art Blakey and Betty Carter, he made a conscious effort to always kind of nurture the young talent. So he always had a lot of young cats in his band, particularly like the last decade of his life. Jeff Keezer, Benny Green, Greg Hutchinson, Kareem Riggins, George Flutus. So he always had the young blood coming in and out, you know. So I would pick any Ray Brown recording from the last 10 years of his life. Quincy Jones, Walking in Space, it's a great album. And probably Oscar Peterson, The Trio. It's a series of recordings they made at the London House in Chicago in 1961, I believe it was. But the one that's just called The Trio.